Hello, good Yontif. How are you? I hope you're all gesund, stark, und freilich, begashmis und beruchnis. I hope you're all healthy, strong, and happy physically, spiritually. Hashem should help that all those in need of refuah shlema should be healed immediately, and Hashem should help that the Magefa should stop now. Today is Lag Baimer, the Yom HaIlula, the day of passing, which is translated Hilula as the wedding celebration of Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai. It's also the yortzeit of my brother Reb Moshe Tzvi Bereb Avram Dov. So today's shir should be Le'ilui Nishmosei. He should have an aliyas on Hashomo, is bet nals guts, for sein mishpach and for ganz Klal Yisrael. As I said before, Gut Yontif, Lag Baimer is the most amazing day on the Jewish calendar. And we are going to start with the pasuk, which even though if I was a straight, proper person, I would start with the pasuk in Kapitel Kuf Yutes that goes, Gal Einai, V'abitin Neflois Miterasecha, which is brought down in Torah Achsidus as an allusion to Lag Baimer. The word Gal is made up of the letters Lamed Gimel, but I'm choosing not to focus on that pasuk today because we already once spoke about that pasuk, and we'll speak about it maybe tomorrow. But today I can't help myself and focus on the pasuk Kuf Mem Beis of Kapitel Kuf Yutes, which goes like this: Tzidkoscha tzedek li'elam v'seiroscha emes, which is talking about Hashem literally, and it means your righteousness is an everlasting righteousness, and your Torah is truth. So we all know this pasuk. We say it every single Shabbos by Mincha. But I think, as we know, we say Tzadikim Doimim, Tzadikim Doimim L'Bayram. Tzadikim are similar to Hashem. So therefore we're going to translate this pasuk referring to Reb Shimon Bar Yochai. Tzidkoscha tzedek li'olam. Reb Shimon Bar Yochai's righteousness, his level of tzaddik, his level of piety, his level of holiness, is tzidkoscha tzedek li'olam. It's everlasting. It's eternal. It rises above all and continues. V'seiroscha emes, and your Torah, the Torah that you revealed, the inner part of Torah is truth. Now, one of the amazing aspects of Lag Baimer is that if you go over to a person and you ask him, what are we celebrating? So, even though on one level, the reason why we celebrate Lag Baimer is because the 24,000 students of Rabbi Akiva stopped dying from a plague, as we mentioned yesterday. But that explanation is not suffice, because that would only mean that we took away something negative. There was a magefa, there was a plague, something sad was happening. We took away that sadness. But it doesn't show on the positive, on the idea of adding joy, going beyond the norm. And we see on Lag Baimer that all the celebrations, the great joy and happiness related to parades, related to children going out to the forest, related to dancing, related to lighting fires, all these things have nothing to do with this idea of the students of Rabbi Akiva that stopped passing away. What they are connected to is the day of the passing of Reb Shimon Bar Yochai, and he said that I want you to be happy on this day. That is the reason. And for that, for the next thousands of years, we are celebrating his day. So the question is, why is he different than everyone else? Avram, Yitzchak, Yaakov, the patriarchs, Moshe Rabbeinu, and so on and so forth. There's no other tzaddik that the day of his passing has become an obligatory day of celebration. It says the words that are brought down in the Svarim, Chayiv Adam L'Smeach Simchas B'Hashbi. We're obligated to celebrate in the joy of Shimon Bar Yochai because he said that you should be happy. But wait, there's more. We can call Lag Baimer the inexplicable holiday, the mysterious holiday. There's no other day in the Jewish calendar that 500,000 Jews come together. like Boimer, every single year in Miran, except for this year. And you go over to a person and ask him, what are you doing? What's today? Why are you going to Miran, the resting place of Rabbi Shimon bar Yochai? Because he was a holy man. What makes him holier than anyone else? And guess what? From the 500,000 people that are there, maybe 5,000 have a clue and an appreciation, slightly. And the answer is because this itself is the proof of the power of a tzaddik. That even when people have no idea of what his level is, and what his degree of divinity is, and what makes him special, still because the tzaddik says, I want you to be happy on my day, everyone is happy. What is the idea of a tzaddik? And by the way, this is part of the reason what makes Rabbi Shimon bar Yochai so special is that his greatness cannot be denied. Tzidkoscha tzedek li'olam. More than any other tzaddik. Why? Because if you look in the stories of the Talmud and the statements of the Zohar and different places, the things, the praise, the awesome descriptions of Rabbi Shimon bar Yochai are beyond anyone else, incomparable. Like for example, Rabbi Shimon bar Yochai said, Yochani lifter is kol ha'olam kulim in adin. I can make the entire world exempt from judgment. What do you mean? Who are you? You're just a tzaddik. But what about Hashem? How could a tzaddik come along and say, I can make the entire world exempt from judgment? He said, the entire world, this is what the Gemara brings down a quote, that the entire history of earth and mankind from the beginning of time till the end of time was worthy just so that I should be in existence. That concept. And there's more, but it's not within the scope of this talk to talk about all the places in the Talmud where it says the stories of Rabbi Shimon bar Yochai. But whatever the story is, any of those stories all bring out a praise and powers that are completely incomparable to anyone else, even those that are like colleagues, other Tanoim. So this is Tzidkos Tzedek Li'olam. And therefore part of his power, so to speak, is that thousands of years later, we're still gathering at his place and celebrating and dancing, even if we have no idea what he's all about. So one of the main, unique, distinctive contributions of Rabbi Shimon bar Yochai was the Zohar. He wrote the Zohar, which is the source of Kabbalah, mysticism, and that itself is unbelievable. I once was talking to a professor, a psychologist who was a professor, and I used to learn with him once or twice a week, and he told me, Rabbi, you don't understand what's so special about Kabbalah and Chassidus. He says, in no other religion, in no other system of thought, Lahavdil Elef Havdalas, Christianity, Islam, Hindu, I don't know, do we speak about what's going on up there? In every other religion, and this person is a very knowledgeable person, very educated, you can pick any subject, he would talk about it. So he used to tell me he couldn't get over it. He says, when you learn about other religions, there's a God, let's say, and there's commandments, and these are the rituals, this is what we're meant to do, etc. But there's no map of what's going on up there, what's going on in God's mind. There's no, like Kabbalah talks about Oilam Misalyonim, Atzilus, Bri, Yetzira, Oirein Soif, Lifnei Atzimtzum, Atzmos. So this is something we take for granted. We don't even realize the levels of deeper and deeper that the Kabbalah teaches us. So, what's the idea of Lag Baimer? There's a tzaddik. A tzaddik is an expression of divinity in a physical body. As the Torah says about Moshe Rabbeinu, Ish Elikim, a man of God. There's a fusion, there's a combination, and it is the conduit that helps us all become closer to Hashem. Whether it's a Moshe Rabbeinu, whether it's a Rabbi Shimon bar Yochai, as we spoke once in another lesson about the concept of a melech, by David HaMelech, or Kohanim. And this is why the day of Lag Baimer is such an amazing celebration, because it reveals to us the role of the true leader in Judaism, of a tzaddik, that he has the power to influence and elevate the entire world. So I'll just finish off with two stories. One of them is a story of a Lag B'omer parade. At the end of the Lag B'omer parade in 1987, Rabbi J.J. Hecht, who was the master of ceremonies of the parade, the Rebbe would give a talk, and Rabbi J.J. Hecht would lead the whole parade, introduce and talk most of the time, and the Rebbe stood by his side. At the end of one parade, the Rebbe turned to J.J. Hecht, and he said, "Nu, was geworden mit der ganzen Moresh Chere? What happened to your whole..." Moresh Chere literally means depression. But what the Rebbe meant was his worries before the parade. There's many stories of different parades of different years where he wrote to the Rebbe about all his anxieties and worries. The weather was not good. This is not working out. That's not working out. So the Rebbe turned to him and said, "Nu, was geschehen mit der ganzen Moresh Chere? What happened to your whole Moresh Chere? To all your worries and anxieties?" So Rabbi J.J. Hecht told the Rebbe hat mir herausgeschleppt. The Rebbe dragged me out of it. So he was giving a thank you to the Rebbe, that the Rebbe pulled him out, dragged him out of his depression. So the Rebbe turned to him, and the Rebbe gave a huge smile. He said, "Herausgeschleppt, aufgeheben." And the Rebbe went like this with his hand. He said, "I dragged you out, I pulled you out. No, I lifted you up." So in other words, when you're connected to a tzaddik, if you say herausgeschleppt, it means you were in the trenches, you were in the mud, you were dirty, and you had to be dragged out of the cement or the quicksand or something like that. But if you say aufgeheben, it's only connected to something positive. A Rebbe, a tzaddik, and being connected to the tzaddik will just take you higher and higher and higher to no end. Aliyas ein sof, aliyas ein ketz. Because since the tzaddik is connected to infinity, if you connect to the tzaddik, he will also take you higher and higher to no end. Another story I'll say that happened with me. It's a famous story. All my students have heard it many times. I went to Russia in 1986, Cheshvan Mem Zayin. So this was in the early days, before the fall of the Soviet Union, communism. And I went with another student. I was 25 years old. And we were sent by the organization Ezes Achem. So I came to Russia, and we went to Moscow, Leningrad, Tbilisi, and Odessa. So first we went to Moscow for a week, then we went to the other places, then we came back to Moscow. In Moscow, there lived a famous elder chassid, an older chassid. His name was Rabbi Valensky. And when I met him, we fabring together. We spent time together. He had a pair of glasses that looked like this. So I told him, Rabbi Getche, schon Zeit, ich soll kaufen a neue Paar Brillen. So as I was talking to him, I told him, Rabbi Getche, I think it's time you bought a new pair of glasses. Anyways, I forgot about it. Then I went to Leningrad, Tbilisi, Odessa. Then I returned to Moscow. Anyways, the next time I saw Rabbi Getche, he was wearing a new pair of glasses. So I went over to Rabbi Getche. I said, Rabbi Getche, hast gekauft a neue Paar Brillen? You bought a new pair of glasses? He says, nur, zwei Schlucken von Reben kommen zu vorn und sagen, aber darf kaufen a neue Paar Brillen, kauf mir a neue Paar Brillen. He says, nur, if two emissaries come from the Rebbe and inform me that I should buy a new pair of glasses, then I buy a new pair of glasses. It costed 10 ruble and 40 kopecks. So this is amazing. Here's a chassid who's 80 years old. He's old enough to be my grandfather. He's from the days of the Rebbe Rashab. And who am I? Some young pipsqueak, I don't know, nothing. And when I told him to go, I think he should buy a new pair of glasses. I just meant it that he should look better, more with it, I don't know. But since he heard it from me and I was coming from New York, coming from 770, so he took it as a command, as a directive from the Rebbe. So here am I, a 25-year-old schnook, who just said, Rabbi Getche, ich halte das old kiffen and I per bill, and I think you should buy a new pair of glasses. And the 80-year-old chassid immediately goes out to buy a new pair of glasses. That's what it means. His dedication and his devotion and his humility to just simply take it as a message from the Rebbe, even though I didn't tell him that I heard it from the Rebbe. And of course you would understand that the Rebbe didn't tell me that he should buy a pair of glasses. But still, this is what he told me when I asked him, why did you buy a new pair of glasses? The Eibusher should help, that we should connect to ultimate tzaddikim, absolute tzaddikim, great tzaddikim, and through being connected to the tzaddik in a way that we're meant to, So all of us will become Uvgehaven, and this will bring Mashiach. Now, posting from my home, Be'ez Hashem Yisborech, your man in Melbourne.